about this primary. The paperwork was due on Tuesday for entry into the Pennsylvania primary, which is on April 28th. They'll be here before you know it, believe me. Among the Democratic presidential candidates, California billionaire Tom Steyer was the first one to file. He didn't qualify for that last debate this week, though. Also on the PA ballot, the usual suspects, right? Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, Michael Bloomberg, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Tulsi Gabbard. Brian, take a guess. Educated guess, of course.
Right.
Which of these candidates won't be running for president anymore when the primary arrives in Pennsylvania?
I think you're going to be down to those who have the cash are going to stay in. First of all, I think if they advertised in newspapers, it would help too. But anyway, I think that's oh, it's TV and radio. I mean, come on. Anyway, digital. But anyway, I think those who have the cash, you're going to see Steyer there. You're going to see Bloomberg there. You're going to see Biden there. You're going to see Bernie. And I think you're going to see Senator Warren, too, as well. And I think it's going to be down to that. And I think in the end, though, it will be Bernie. And I think Bernie's going to win the nomination. I think Bernie's going to get beaten by Trump. There you go. That's the November, my prognosis.
There you have it. It's on the record. So just to inform the discussion here, 4 years ago in the 2016 primary in Pennsylvania, for the Democrats, of course, Hillary Clinton, 55.6%. Bernie Sanders, 43.53%. Donna, what does Bernie Sanders need to do to talk to the voters of Pennsylvania?
He needs to dial it down to the people that don't agree with him. I mean, his single biggest problem is that he is so polarizing. And it is that polarization that animates his base, but it's also that polarization that drives other people away and causes everyone to believe that he is going to fulfill Brian's prophecy that, in fact, if he is the nominee, that Donald Trump will beat him. I think that when watching the debate, I was just so struck by the hypocrisy. And Bloomberg nailed it. He said, you're the most well-known socialist in America, and you own 3 homes, and you're a millionaire. How do you reconcile these things? So the hypocrisy, I think, is going to undergird that, and the polarization is a big deal.
Christine?
Donna said it. The polarization. Bernie is the flip side of Trump. Trump has a very loyal, solid, limited base. Bernie has the same thing. Only Bernie is angry. Trump is a happy warrior. Trump is happy. Bernie constantly looks as if he hates people who don't agree with him.
Now, some people at home might be raising their eyebrows.
I'm so certain that they are. But the whole thing is, I was watching, and all I could see was Larry David. He was there, and he's like, and I get this, and I... And I agree with Donna about Bloomberg. I think, and we're going to talk about him later, I'm sure, and I think that he was unfairly attacked, but I think that he really landed a zinger on Bernie, who is, Comrade Bernie, and he's our socialist friend. And, he's a millionaire.
It depends on what's going on by the time you get to Pennsylvania. The majority of the voters are voting on the moderate side. If you see between Amy, Biden, and Pete, those are the majority of the votes. To some extent, he's winning because the middle of the party is being totally divided, and so you've got the liberal wing, which is, again, Bernie. Now, the problem with Bernie is that if he doesn't win, the question is whether he's going to take his people and not be a part of the process, and that's what happened with Hillary. So I still believe that the wild card is obviously Bloomberg, and whether or not what happens in Nevada and then the coattails of that issue, if he's ahead, and he did very poorly, in my opinion, Bloomberg, at the debate.
In the first hour.
He did very, very poorly. If he can put it together, because I would have defended it differently. Many of the issues that he talked about, corporate issues, that to some extent he probably doesn't have a real handle on to be able to.
It was surprising to see him struggle in the debate, though, because he's been a mayor, he's been on a lot of stages, and it almost seemed, and I know I've read these prepared for hours and hours, these weren't surprise questions, some of these questions, and effectively, would he be a great president? I think he'd be a very fine president. The question is, can he get through this process? And I'm not sure.
And you guys, the Republicans, want Bernie anyway, so they're putting whatever they can, including the Russians.
I don't think these guys do.
Two more things about this discussion. For one thing, the Inquirer went out and profiled some Democrats out in the suburbs, and talk to him about, what do you think about things going on? And a lot of them are just saying, I just want someone who's going to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you have here with Bloomberg is his history in supporting Republican candidates, particularly Senator Pat Toomey, who he helped re-elect, only won by like 1.5% of the vote in his last election. And maybe some Democrats might look at Bloomberg and say, you're kind of the reason why the Senate is still...
But you don't know about that. That was related to the gun control issue.
It was.
And the thing is, Matt, that I liked that Bloomberg said, he said that Toomey, and people can disagree with this, I don't, I like Toomey a lot, but that Toomey was a profile in courage because he bucked his party. Katie McGinty was much more in favor of gun control, but she didn't buck her party. She was well within the Democratic mainstream on that. Toomey took a step that was really quite dangerous for him politically, and I think Bloomberg recognized that, and I honor that.
And I want to just add one thing to what Christine said. I agree with that analysis. It's important to remember that happened right after Sandy Hook. The nation was just ripped apart over that terrible tragedy. Toomey took those steps, and I think it's so important to point out, there was a time in America that both parties governed. So Bloomberg is supposed to be penalized because he reached out to somebody across the aisle to try to govern.
Some may
That's
see
the
it that
problem.
way.
Well, and those people are also the people that will not acknowledge that he spent $100 million to flip the House and give a speaker Nancy Pelosi. So
And he
you
said
can't have
he's going to donate money to whoever is the Democratic nominee,
billion.
him or not.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
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 That's a lot of money. He's